Good morning, dear friends. We're starting our usual Sunday webinar. Today in our studio is Dr. Mark Lightman.
Hello.
Boris Pilsudski, I'm Simeon Vinokur, the instructor of the International Kabbalah Academy. The topic today is not simple, but hopefully we'll get closer to it. It's faith above reason. This is something we talk about all the time in the lessons, and students are asking all the time, what is this? So can we talk about this on the level of those who are just starting? Can we get them a little closer to this topic?
You see, I didn't select this topic myself. I'm not sure who selected it, but I don't agree. Why? Because it's very difficult to explain this. I'll try, since they selected this, but you have to understand me. Let's take history, for instance. You can explain away history. There was lived a man, lived a woman, this and that. Or you can explain it through development of humanity, the egoism, the laws of nature, and how it all influences everyone and how it coerces every element of creation to take on certain forms and mutual connections with one another, to live together.
To live together, yeah?
You can explain history through describing the governance of different emperors and rulers, etc. You can also explain this as a law of nature that creates these types of people. They're just puppets and perform certain functions. You can also explain history through art, through discovery of sciences that make us act a certain way. In different ways you can explain this, but basically we're talking about what is happening in the world. And to explain such a thing, you can do through a huge variety of different approaches and methods. So, the science of Kabbalah, it also uses a few different approaches in order to explain people about itself. Because this science about a state of a man who begins to communicate with the Creator. It's not a simple thing. To get to a level where you're connected with the Creator, of course you don't see Him through your eyes and you don't hear Him through your ears, or don't smell Him through your nose, or feel Him through your skin. You don't perceive Him through your five senses, but you do perceive Him. You perceive Him from inside of yourself, in the measure that you, within yourself, build His form, His image. In that measure, that image begins to exist within you, and then you henceforth exist with it, live with it, communicate with it. Faith above reason means that I ascend above my nature and try to, and not only try, but truly enter a state that is opposite to my current state, where the Creator exists. Creator is a quality of bestowal, quality of common and mutual connection, a quality of love. Within me, this quality, initially I don't have this quality. But if I, in some way, let's say, within me I can find it, or create it, to gather it or reveal it, then this quality will exist within me above my current egoism, my current state. And then this quality will be called faith above reason, because reason or knowledge is what happens within my essence, within my ego, my understanding, my sensations. That which I feel and understand now, that is called knowledge. But when I rise above it and want to act in an opposite way, how opposite is something we need to still explain, then I will be in a state opposite to knowledge, which will be called faith above reason. Opposite doesn't mean inverse. There are a lot of things here that don't correspond in our regular understanding of life, things that we need to first talk about and initially go around perhaps, and then to try to feel, because the solution to this problem of faith above reason, in reality, it comes through perception, through sensation, that there exists this state called the upper world, there exists this state called rising above yourself, there exists a state such as bestowal, living for the sake of bestowal, and you wish to acquire this state. When a person has this internal direction, movement, he begins to prepare through this to exit his egoistic enslavement or servitude to his ego. Where does this begin? It starts from through a certain lengthy period of time, upon a person acts a certain force. The upper force is called the upper light, or surrounding light. This force was invoked by the fact that by a person desiring this force for it to change him. He invoked it with his actions, even though egoistic actions, but in general, yes. These actions were egoistic in their internal essence, but altruistic in their goal. This is the kind of influence that a person received from his actions in the group, through his studies in Kabbalah, when he was seriously relating to this, desiring to acquire this additional strength, quality, not of this world. Then it gradually began to be born within him. This quality, when it is born within a person, it's very interesting that it is born. It is born and develops, or rather is conceived and then develops in a way similar to the development of a fetus, human fetus. And then it is born and starts to live its own life. And this quality that is born first is conceived, and then develops, and then begins to exist on its own after it's born. It is called a soul. This is the quality of faith above reason. Or, speaking through the language of Kabbalah, this quality is Bina, which is above Malchut. When a person attaches himself to this quality of Bina, detaching himself from a quality of Malchut. Here you can say, in a simpler way, that faith above reason is the quality of Bina that is above the quality of Malchut, or a quality of bestowal that is realized above the quality of reception, or a desire to bestow that organizes itself above the desire to receive. Through this principle, our soul is structured, and based upon this principle, we also exist in the spiritual world. And this is what we need to build inside of us. Before we build this inside of us, none of us has a soul. We just have a body, and our animalistic body that we have is not even mentioned anywhere in Kabbalah. What is meant is, when we're talking about our body, what we mean is our desire, a desire to receive, to enjoy, that exists within us, not connected to our physical body. It's our egoistic desire. Let's say that this is a preamble of sorts.
There's a lot of words here that give us some associations with faith.
Faith doesn't have anything to do with faith of this world, or philosophy, or in our psychology or regular life. Faith is a quality of bestowal that is formed within us under the influence of the upper force. It doesn't exist within us. When I say that I believe in something, this means that I simply have some connection with some phenomena, but in no way is this connected to the faith that Kabbalah is talking about. In Kabbalah, faith is a very special, unique quality that arises within me under the influence of this upper force, this upper light. When it arises within me, I am capable of doing completely altruistic actions, not related in any way to myself. This spiritual body becomes a part of me. It starts to live within me, and I work with it.
So we have a question with respect to this. In Kabbalah, the upper force can be attracted with your desire or with some special desire.
The upper force that this quality of Bina forms within us is a quality of bestowal that later becomes quality of love towards your friend. These are completely altruistic qualities. They're not related to our world at all, these categories. So they can be invoked only through this upper light, and upper light is invoked only through particular actions in the group, in the study, everything that Kabbalah teaches us as means to acquire this upper quality. And in the measure that this person acquires this quality, he becomes someone that enters a certain field called the upper world, and then in this field of sensations where everything is perceived through bestowal in faith above reason, there he perceives forces. Forces that interact with one another and him, and there he begins to acquire this vision of what Torah is talking about, the understanding of what Torah is talking about. This can be called what Kabbalah teaches.
Well, you probably answered, but let's speak about this. Victor is asking, how can our material actions in egoism and study, can I pull this completely unearthly force?
You're correct. This question is very correct. If our world does not have any connection with upper world, which is truly so, then in what way can I, through my certain actions in this world, with what I have through my ego or other physical actions, to do something? So I actually cannot do anything. It's simply there exists a certain possibility when we unite in the 10 and try within this 10 to unite amongst one another above our egoism, despite it, even though I'm completely incapable of it, but I try. In the measure that I try, to do this, in that measure, I can invoke this upper light upon myself. There exists a certain connection between the branch and its root. And I could do this. In other words, if I will act in a certain way in our world, in the group, with the friends, studying together through Kabbalistic sources and create connections between us that are described in Kabbalistic sources. In everything I will try to imitate those forms that Kabbalah writes about, those actions that Kabbalah writes about, even though I'm within my ego. Despite of that, there will appear a certain induction through which I will be able to invoke upon myself this upper light, awaken this upper light. This upper light will not really be called upper light, but it will be called surrounding light or makif. What does it mean, the surrounding light? It's the light that exists on purpose, that surrounds the ego, the egoism, and in the measure that this egoism aspires towards this upper light, this desiring as if to become similar to this light, this surrounding light, it influences egoism and changes it.
I wanted to read a piece. It's a little long. Maybe we can divide it. And in Zohar, such is written, the wisdom that a person must attain contains the following. He must attain and study the secret of the Creator, and he must understand who he is and how he was created and where he came from and where he's going, and how a correction of the body is done, and he must study the secret of the souls, and what is the essence of the person that's inside of him, and where does it come from, and why does it enter this body. To study this world deeply, and the person must know what world he is in, and why does the world exist, and then he must study the upper worlds and the upper secrets to attain the Creator, and all of this he can attain from the wisdom of Kabbalah.
Yes, this is all nice. Every word that is written here, needs to be, every word really desires explanation. The entire book is needed to explain each sentence.
So a person must attain and study the wisdom of Kabbalah deeply.
We don't need such things. People that are in the beginning of their studies don't really need to listen to such excerpts, such phrases.
So we have a question from Moscow. What's the difference between attaining and deep study? And everybody else, please prepare your questions. We have we can ask questions live also.
I see that they're ready to ask.
What's the difference between attainment and deep study?
Through the study, you learn with your brains. You are smart people. You can learn whatever you want. But to attain, no, you cannot. Attainment in Kabbalah is based on similarity of qualities. There's the upper world, which is not felt by us because we don't have the proper qualities that are similar to it, which is why we don't feel it, don't perceive it. In the same way that we are unable to see radio waves, radio frequencies. They exist around us, but we don't feel them. We build a tool that allows us to feel them. Therefore, we need to build a tool that will allow us to feel the upper world. This tool is called the soul. Therefore, this tool needs to have a quality of this upper world. That's it. The quality of the upper world is called quality of quality of bestowal. It's opposite to our world. And this is what we need to do. As I said before, this is part of the group, part of the studies, to follow what is written in the science of Kabbalah, and you will begin to sense how this will be forming within you. You will be accumulating the study materials within you, will be learning certain schematics of spiritual elements and their various interrelationships, different classifications and degrees. You'll be learning a science, a physics of the upper world, and gradually, together with this, certain qualities, feelings will begin to be formed within you. Sensory sensations, you'll begin to feel within yourself, oh, this is Malchut, this is Binah, this is the upper Parsa, and this is lower Parsa, below Parsa and above Parsa. You'll somehow begin to, within yourself, build these models. And this will be your internal model. This is called the formation, gradual formation of your soul. So let's ask them. Moscow.
Dear Rav, hello. I have a question. So, for example, in a regular family, so you have the manifestation of being a father or a mother, when a mother is trying to benefit the child in all manners. Is this also the manifestation of the qualities that you're talking about, like faith above reason, or does this have nothing to do with it? And another question, what starts up this mechanism when faith above reason appears?
Naturally, that in no mechanism that exists between people, and especially in no animalistic interaction between a mother and a child, there is no spiritual interaction here. It's just a certain desire of a mother towards a child. It exists in animals and exists within people just as it does in animals. And that was the first question. What was the second question?
What starts up this mechanism of faith above reason?
What starts this mechanism is faith above reason, and being in a group of like-minded people. When you constantly push yourselves towards actions that are similar to spiritual actions, and gradually, in coherence with your efforts, this upper light influences you and gives you certain qualities of bina, of bestowal, qualities of faith above reason. Faith is a quality of bina, and knowledge is a quality of
malchut. You know when He will act upon you.
I specifically don't know when it influences me and how, but I know that if I study Kabbalah and do something together with my friends, and I think about this upper light to influence me, and I need it, and that's why I do all of my actions. Harikov.
Hello, as you explain, whenever I or someone else begins to understand what faith above reason is, it becomes his knowledge, right? How should I act beyond that to be above knowledge, and seeing that above faith is also some sort of an action? It keeps nullifying everything that I attain.
No, it's not annulled. It's simply you're going in greater faith above reason. There's faith above reason, then there's greater faith above reason, and even greater than that. And how is this done? Because you're added knowledge, reason, and this faith that you have attained has become a part of your reason. And then you need to go again in bigger faith above that reason.
So am I becoming smarter?
You become smarter because of faith that becomes reason.
But it also becomes more and more difficult to move in faith above reason.
This is called work in two lines. This is faith and this is reason. Faith has ascended and turned into reason. And so on and so forth. 1, 2, 1, 2.
So, the smarter I become, it's more difficult to move in faith above reason, right or no?
Not necessarily. There are certain issues that arise when a person becomes accustomed to it and becomes experienced still. This remains the left side, and that remains the right side. And you're walking as if on two legs. Peter, St. Petersburg.
Hello, dear Rav. I'm asking my question for the first time. I'm sorry if it's a little bit off topic. During the period of my study, Barusalam, he's very brave, and I believe everything you're saying. And for Rabash, how can I study Rabash so that I would attain something? And please let Vinakor learn that he's real.
Yes, he's real. Well, we'll see how real he is. I'll tell you. Bala Salam was a huge Kabbalist who, through the last few centuries, was the most prominent Kabbalist that has brought Kabbalah to us in a very general, systematic way. That's what he did. He has adapted it for us. Those that learn Kabbalah in order to conquer it, not as a science, but as a method of spiritual attainment, these are two different things. They're connected, but in general, they're different. When a person wants to enter the spiritual world on his own, for himself, then Baal Salam for him is a theorist.
Doesn't take your hand.
He cannot lead a person forward. A person is led forward by Rabash. Rabash explains to a person every time where that person is. What to do and how to act. This interaction with the group, with himself, with the Creator, every step. At every step. I remember how he was writing these articles. His first article, he wrote next to me in the park on his knee. I gave him this foil, this foil that's placed inside of a cigarette pack. This aluminum type of paper. On the opposite side of that paper, he wrote a little article, his first article, from his 3-volume work, Regards to Social Writings. And then I asked him again to do it and to do it again. And based on my questions, he wrote his first articles and then he started writing on his own. Why am I talking about this? Because these are practical articles. Without them, we wouldn't be able to advance. Let's say our studies in the mornings are main lessons. 1 to 1.5 hours we dedicate to Rabash, and maybe only 30 minutes to the study of the 10 Sefirot and 30 more minutes to Baal Salam, because without Rabash we cannot advance forward. This today is known to us in a very particular way, even though it's unclear how people before Rabash were able to master the spiritual space. How were they able to feel it within themselves and out of themselves to advance further to other degrees? It's not clear. He did this for us because, particularly in our time, such souls are descending into our world that they need this. This is practical Kabbalah. Baal Salam was more of a theorist, theoretical Kabbalah, aside from the Shemari article, but he didn't even write them himself. He was voicing them, and Rabash was writing them down. The question was how to get closer to Rabash.
The answer is to study, to listen to our lessons with Rabash. They're all in the archive. You can use all of this for free, and it's all accessible to anyone. Hold on and move ahead. But in essence, the most important thing is to simply systematically study in the group with an instructor. That's the most important part. And beyond that, if you want something else, then you can get into our archive. And of course, we are expecting all of you at our Congress. In 2 months, we have a big Congress, our big yearly Congress in Israel, and we are awaiting all of you.
We have a wonderful group in St. Petersburg, wonderful teachers. I was just there recently. I have a huge impression from them. Another question from them. How do you determine in which world do we exist, and why does this lower world exist in the first place?
This lower world only exists so that we would be able to move into the upper world, so that we'd have a base, an initial point where we'd be able to, into which we'd be able to fall, from which we'd be able to keep going up again and jump into a higher state.
The initial question is, where are we now?
We're in egoism. That's our world. Everything we attain inside. Everything that we feel inside ourselves.
Question from Kirill. How can the quality of faith in Chassidim turn into knowledge? One quality can become another quality?
the quality of faith is quality of bestowal. If I have a quality of bestowal and it's strong enough, then into this quality of bestowal I can receive the perception of Creator, which is called the light of Chokhmah. And I'm saying everything very concisely, and maybe it's not very clear, but this is something you'll be able to use later on and to understand better what this all is.
Oleg is asking, you're saying that faith does not exist, but what about faith in the friend, faith in the Creator, faith in the teacher?
It's not the same faith that Kabbalah talks about. In Kabbalah, faith is a strength with which I can create and act. It's the ability of being similar to the Creator. And this faith that you're talking about, it's not the same. Let's ask Kaunas.
Hello, Rav. Hello, friends. I wanted to ask, for a completely new person, where should he begin? Which sources he should read initially? Maybe there's some recommendations from Rabash, Balaslam, or maybe your books should be read. What would you recommend? Thank you.
I would recommend my book. It's of course not I don't consider myself to be an original source, but Attaining the World Beyond, I think it's the most appropriate book as the first book on Kabbalah.
We call this the Russian version of Shamati.
Yeah, it's a simple addendum to Shamati. What to start with, this book I think is the best book to start with, and I wrote it specifically for this type of revelation, so that this is the book the person would have as his first, Attaining the Worlds Beyond. And I think I wrote it 1991, 92. Vienna?
Hello, World Kli. If we live in the world of egoism, how can we use this egoism effectively to come to the spirituality?
Our egoistic world we can use because we must simply exist in it physically. But everything else, we need to pay attention to our states in the group, and corresponding to our connection between one another, we will create that spiritual vessel, that spiritual web of forces that where the Creator is going to be revealed. I don't see any more questions.
Let's keep going.
We have one. He already asked a question. Mikhail. Almata.
Hello, dear Rav. This is my question. Do I understand correctly that the amount of my knowledge influences the quality of my faith above reason? The more knowledge I have, the greater the quality of my faith above reason.
I don't think there's a direct correlation. There's no direct correlation here. The knowledge that you're speaking about, it's how much I know, how much I studied, how many hours I spent. They don't necessarily depend on the spiritual path. It depends on the efforts that you make in order to attain a connection between yourself and your friends, and in this web of interconnections, mutual ones. That's where you reveal the Creator. So, with respect to knowledge, there's a limited amount of there's a limited relationship here. I don't see any other questions.
Anatoly is asking, even though you already said that God doesn't exist, you yourself appear to him as someone that exists. So how should I relate to him? As a certain force that exists, or do I express emotion towards it? But how can I express emotions towards something that doesn't exist?
How can I explain this to you? I used to have this old car that always caused me all sorts of trouble. I would dig inside it myself, and I would bring it to an auto shop so that they would fix it. And I would constantly curse it, and the mechanic would curse it. He'd really use bad words. And he'd treat it as a thing that was alive, saying as though,
Once
oh my
again,
God.
you brought me.
So whenever we turn to someone, to something, we always place on this object, onto this force, our own qualities and our own feelings, which of course do not exist in this object. But the same thing, the Creator. To the extent that I'm able to create inside myself the quality of bestowal and love and connection, that quality I call the Creator, and no more than that. And in reality, the Creator outside of this quality that I created, he doesn't exist. So here you and I will need to position ourselves correctly so that we're able to accurately understand that the Creator is called Bore. It's one word, but I'm writing it with a dash because Bo means come and Re means see. So you have to come and you have to see. You have to reach a state so that you'd be able to discover this quality. This is what is called the quality of Bore. We also call this quality Elohim. Elohim is also made up of two parts of the soul. This part is called the Ahab, and this is Galgal Teveinayim. So two parts of the soul. So the soul, what does it have to do with the Creator? The soul is part of the Creator. So we don't speak about anything that exists outside of a person. Same as come, bo. You must reach this state and see. Everything that we speak about is attaining inside a person. When a person reaches the quality of bestowal, quality of love, I'll draw a heart. It's an acceptable sign today. When we reach this state, then the state is what I call the Creator. This quality is above egoism. And it's not easy to cultivate and develop it inside yourself. And then we'll be able to talk about the fact that we're attaining the Creator. St. Petersburg?
If development of a person the question if a person died when he was young, in 18, and he developed certain emotions, qualities, that will be the same in his next life.
Whatever person attains throughout his life, it doesn't go anywhere, and he always continues his path. I don't want to say anything more about this at this time. It will confuse you. This is all not within the boundaries of our world.
Does a person react to his desires or efforts? What does the Creator react to?
The effort and the desire are very close concepts. Of course, for the most part, it's the effort. To the extent I'm trying to exit myself and to connect with the Creator. And to that extent, I try to act upon and I try to sense how this quality of faith above reason acts upon me in the group.
Question from Melia. Can I relate to all the events of my life to my studies in MAC, or would these events still occur with me? What do the study of Kabbalah bring into my life?
Study of Kabbalah makes your life filled with a goal. The study of Kabbalah, it gives you an eternal win that doesn't die, that doesn't go away with your body when it dies, but also remains there even when the body dies. And being that this quality is above the ego, it continues to exist. So Kabbalah gives you this ability to be in this winning state in life, and then you'll be able to continue and advance in one lifetime or more than one lifetime, a few lifetimes, but you'll be able to attain complete and full similarity of Creator, to reach all the qualities of the Creator. That's the point of development.
A question from Alexander. Dear teacher, please tell me how to separate the corporeal and the spiritual. How do my bad actions in my corporeal world influence my spiritual life?
No actions of yours in the material world act upon your spiritual development, because none of them control it, and the only thing that affects the spiritual is in the extent in which you're able to put your efforts forward to attain the quality of bestowal, and just that, and everything else are just toys that you have in this world.
There are a lot of practical questions. Alena is asking, should I pay attention towards criticism towards me?
I myself don't really react to criticism unless I am being criticized, and I see that I must use this criticism in order to change some ways of how I approach teaching, how I express certain things, pay attention to certain aspect of things. So when criticism helps me in disseminating Kabbalah, I really welcome it, and everything else I don't really care what anybody else says about. What can they say? I'm not reading anything to you about everything that they read about me, and I hear that there's lots of bad things that they write about me, and so on. What else can you expect? Tell me. This is people. I don't get angry or mad at anyone. This is the nature, and until it's corrected, this is the way that it acts.
Valentin is asking, please tell me, do Kabbalists practice love towards the Creator, and what kind of a sensation is it?
Maybe I would recommend that you watch our lesson that we had yesterday during the day, or maybe even the lesson that we had today in the morning. These two lessons. How did he ask the question?
Does a Kabbalist practice love towards the Creator, and how does it feel?
Well, let's you and I do this in practice. Try to hold yourself constantly in the thought that you want to love the Creator, that you wish to do good to Him, that you are aimed towards Him with your whole soul. You want to be closer to Him. You want to feel Him. Try it. And try to pay attention to yourself. Does this inner quality or sensation begin to appear inside of you, that you're lacking this closeness, that you want to think more about this, but the best thing is if you think about how can I do something good for Him. To think about the fact that you want to do something good for the Creator. these actions, interactions from you, they will bring about certain sensations inside you pretty fast, and with this you'll be able to speak about the fact that there's some sort of a point of relationship with the Creator that exists inside of you. And from this point I can begin to develop further. So I'm going to repeat one more time. I want to, so that I'd be able to have this constant desire to do something good for the Creator. And you can add that I don't want the Creator to know about this. This is something that I want to do on my own. And that's it.
Next. Alexei is asking, I don't see where I can realize myself in this world in supporting my necessities as in the darkness. Do I simply need to find the group, study with them, and have faith that this will give me understanding?
I think that a person must have a profession that would allow him to support his family, and without any crazy overages, and to pay his other time to spiritual development, and this would be the most optimal way of life.
Lydia is asking, what states, corporeal suffering and pleasures have you gone through on your way to the Creator?
Me? I went through quite a lot, and you will also go through it. This is all these things repeat in each person.
Did you feel depression, emptiness, all these states that people constantly ask about?
How can you not feel this if these are necessary states before fulfillment, before receiving any type of knowledge even? You must feel that you're lacking something, you don't understand, you're in confusion. And the same thing is in attainment. Before you attain something spiritual, you have these states that you don't understand anything, that you're in complete, I don't know, you're completely knocked out. You don't understand anything. It's like you'll never reach anything, and it's like this whole study is pointless and dumb, and you begin to curse everything, me, yourself, everyone, and then it changes, and a lot of you know this, that these states change. And a new day comes, a new light comes, and everything starts anew. But of course on a much higher degree. And in the same manner again and again. Light, darkness, day, night. And these things change and change until you attain such an accumulation of your impressions that it turns into a constant sensation, a constant knowledge.
Irina is asking, what should we do in Kabbalah? Bestow is not bestowal from this world, love is not love of this world, faith is not faith of this world.
Yeah, none of these things match, because this world is egoistic. Here we have small egoistic animals called people. And we shouldn't really worry about this. We must rise higher. Look at it from a side. You see that in the internet and in the news, everywhere. What is this world good for? Why should we pay so much attention to it? It really only exists so that we'd be able to ascend higher in it, and we begin to realize the upper world. Our whole evolution through thousands of years is bringing us to this point. So, can we reach the state and to where we understand the limitations of time and everything else in this world, and we want to hold on to it? Let's use it to rise above it.
Question about superstition. What does Kabbalah say about superstitions?
Kabbalah doesn't speak about superstitions. These are all things that we make up in this world. These are all psychological or psychiatric sometimes. Kabbalah distances itself from all these superstitions and all these mystic things, everything that exists in this world. Leave this all alone and give yourself a bit towards a study of how to attain the upper world, how to attain the Creator. And you will see that it will replace everything for you. You'll simply get answers to all your questions. And they'll be precise and accurate, and you will begin to work with your soul. We have 5 minutes left.
What is a mind from the point of view of Kabbalah?
The mind is the light of Chachma that is filled with light of Chasadim.
A question not on the topic, but worries our listener very much. What should a woman do with thoughts and desires to teach Kabbalah?
She should prepare herself to being able to teach Kabbalah. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be able to do this, but right now in this world of ours today, it's not something that it's accepted, because throughout many centuries, women was always in the background, and only during our time, a woman is really becoming equal with a man, and we still see that it's how problematic all of this is, and how much this is all connected to all the different misconceptions and so on. So for now, this moment where a woman is going to be completely equal with a man or even ahead of man, it hasn't been fully realized practically in our world. But you should prepare to teach, and I support this, and I support you in teaching classes. But I don't know how fast this is something we'll be able to realize in the world, so this is something that would be something that's accepted. But I myself, I see in the future that this is how it's going to be. But it's not simple. Even what happens in the world today, where we have as though equal rights between men and women, but women, for the most, in a lot of places, feel that they're oppressed more than men, and we still have to overcome this. Kabbalah does this. Kabbalah really essentially puts a woman to be above a man, even though a man's part moves forward, but it moves forward in order to develop the woman's part. But we will speak about this more later. This also hasn't really been developed well, this topic.
Igor is asking, acquiring the quality of bestowal, can a person influence the development of this corporeal world?
Yes, but not in a way where he does some sort of magic. But when we, from our world, where we attain the quality of bestowal, then our world gets a higher light and it becomes better, and all the different problems and all these actions that happen in it, they happen with the quality of bestowal, not with the quality of reception. So in a much softer and better way.
So for me, for the receiver, the perception of this world changes.
And not just you, and all the other people in the world who don't participate in the study of Kabbalah, they will feel that the world has begun to develop in a softer and a kinder way from day to day.
There are a lot of questions that just came in. We'll try to gather them and answer them next time. But meanwhile, in St. Petersburg, there's a course for beginners. There are webinars on Wednesdays at 7 o'clock Israeli time, where you can receive your answers to your questions. You can sign up for a newsletter, and you can see these announcements in the comment section on YouTube. and there you can also post your opinions towards the assignments that you have received.
I highly recommend that you read my Twitter. It doesn't matter to the extent that you're going to understand it, because I have to really express myself in a very short... there's very little excerpts that I can post there, but I really deal an hour or two a day into it. I put a lot of effort towards this, but I think it's necessary to give these as though short shots into a person, help them, maybe shake someone up, aim someone. I think Twitter really helps me do this. Please read Twitter in Russian, especially. Best of luck. And until our next time, and we'll try to answer all your questions. Please participate in everything with us, and prepare to come to our Congress. Good day.